request for cash, not why he was late, but all of us requested about him more. He made you make him a big round of
Islam. I would like to first of all apologize for being a little late. This time wasn't our fault. We wasn't operating on no colored people's time, nothing like this. The war was on time. They was off. So I would like to apologize for that first of all. But you know, another one of those instances coming straight off the plane, straight into the lecture. I'm starting to get used to doing that now. But by a show of hands, how many here was at the last lecture or seen the previous videotape or anything? I just want to get an idea because I don't want to be repetitive on some information if you've already seen some of it. So, keep your hands up a minute. So most of you was at the previous lecture or seen the previous lecture's video, for the most part. All right, I just want to get an idea of that because since the last lecture, some things has happened. And let me start off. A moment. Got a lot of material here. Since the time of that last lecture, prior to that lecture, you know, I've always heard that the Prophet Noble Dwali has set certain things up for our people. A lot of elders used to say, you know, Noble Dwali set it up already. He already established certain things for us. But up to that time, I never had nothing concrete to substantiate that. About 2 years ago, a brother by the name of Brother Kedar gave me a call and told me that he had a memorandum that was issued by a brother by the name of Frank Louis Ilbay, who was saying that he was the trustee of a trust that was set up for Noble Dwali, by Noble Dwali for us in our behalf. But nobody knew where this person was, how could we contact him. We didn't even know if he was still alive. We thought that since he was a trustee dealing with the trust, that we thought he knew Noble Dwali personally, and therefore he would naturally be an old person, an elder by now, and we didn't know if he was still alive or what. And I'm just going to read to you the part of the memorandum that Brother Kedar from North Carolina sent to me. And when he sent me this, it had my wheels spinning because I heard so much about it, but this was the first thing that was tangible or concrete that was dealing with that. And the memorandum is dated April 28, 1989. And it says, memorandum to all governors and grand sheiks and head officials of all temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Subject, notification by the trustee of the existence and performance of the express trust created by trustor Noble Dwali. And it says, the first section says, statement of issue. We as a people, parentheses, Moorish Americans, are the primary beneficiary of an extremely extensive fee simple estate conveyed to us in an express trust that was secretly, however, duly created in 1928. Keep in mind, secretly, however, duly created in 1928 by the Prophet Noble Dwali for our economic, political, and social redemption and regeneration. Points of law. The express trust was duly created in conjunction with the statute of frauds and perjuries and the parole evidence rule and the legal requirements of the state of Illinois pursuant to the laws and the Constitution of the United States. Summary. The land or fee simple estate actually conveyed to us in the said trust is a legacy of our forefathers, our birthright. It was put in the legal institution known as an express trust and duly conveyed to us Moorish Americans specifically for our direct economical, political, social, and moral uplift and regeneration, the true redemption of Africa, and collaterally for the general uplift of fallen humanity. I am the duly appointed trustee. I have active possession of the title deeds thereto and accordingly has initiated the trust performance. So when I heard this, I said, man, and it says categorically Through its performance, the trust readily gives us the wealth and resources to make us a very powerful, independent political entity and an unquestionable independent economic force within this country and among the nations of the earth, thus enabling us to overcome all our handicaps in things political and economical. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of it, but basically, when I received this, at that point, the brother Kedar, Brother Farad Eel from Washington, D.C., and myself set out on this quest to try and see if we could find out more about this trust or somehow locate the trustee. We tried looking up, tried to find out if there was some type of book or something that recorded trust that was established or whatever. We couldn't find anything. Then one day, shortly after I did the lecture, December 9th, with Black Media, Cultural Communications, I got a call from Brother Farad saying, brother, not only did we find a trustee, but he's sitting here right now watching your video, the video that was done December 9th. I said, what? He said, the trustee's sitting here watching your video and he wants to use the information that you presented in the video in the court as evidence, proving that this is the inherited land of our forefathers. And so what I'm going to do, oh, pardon me 1 second. I got one thing. Let me get out the information dealing with the trust, because what I'm going to do, it says most of you already heard some information from December 9th, and I'm going to go over it also again briefly for those who wasn't there. But I'm going to start off with the trust. And so the brother told me we have a trustee, he's here right now. And he wants to use the information. Also, they want to make copies of the videotape and give it to the different Moors, because all the Moors were interested in it. I said, no problem. And so what they did was organize a trust conference in Washington, D.C., April 6, 1996, which was what happened to be my day of birth, or my mother's birthday, my day of birth. And we did the trust conference. I met the trustee and everything. And he presented me with all the various legal documents connected with the trust. Now, at this time, I had no real knowledge of trust law or the law of property. So I had to take what I got that day and then go do my homework and do my research. And what actually happened was this. First of all, this is the inherited land of our forefathers, and foremothers, I should say. And what happened was that, being that there was no, as a result of the brainwashing, and then making us believe that we were all brought over here from Africa by the Europeans, there was no rightful heir to our land, to our inheritance. And so, as the trustee stated, our inheritance was held in abeyance, seeking a rightful heir to abide it, or to vest it. That rightful heir was Noble Drew Ali. When Noble Drew Ali went and stepped to the federal government to reclaim our heritage, our birthright, our flag, so on and so forth, he also reclaimed our inheritance. And the way he did it, as mentioned here, it says secretly, however, duly created. And what he did was, it is stated in the oral statements of the prophet. There's a pamphlet called Oral Statements of the Prophet, Oral Statements and Prophecies of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, found on the Moorish Science Temple of America. And this is put out by Brother R. Love Eel. And in this particular book, this established the intention, first of all, to create a trust. Now let me get something else out that deals with trust law. Because what I did since that time is I went to the library and I got the Westlaw book on trust to do further research on this. Give me 1 second, just bear with me because I have a lot of information here. What Noble Drew Ali did, according to this, there was a conference called the Pan American Conference that was held in Havana, Cuba in 1928, which was attended by all the nations of this hemisphere. And at that conference, Prophet Noble Drew Ali went there with C. Kirkman Bey, who served as his interpreter, being that he spoke so many different languages. And it was said that at this conference, he received a mandate for the land, for our inheritance. he came back here, and on August 1st, 1928, he put our inheritance into a trust, what's known as an express trust. Now, he had to do it secretly. And this is the reason why Noble Drew Ali phrased everything that he was doing, or I should say, placed a religious veil over everything that he did, so that he wouldn't raise suspicions or, alarms, because what he was actually doing, the wealth, the trust is dealing with this. This is what the trust is comprised of. Here's a map of the world. In the lands of the trust, our inherited lands was referred to by Noble Drew Ali as the dominions of a Mexican, or a Mexican for short. According to the deed, what Noble Drew Ali did was embed the legal documents, the trust instruments, in religious documents. So those who was looking from a religious perspective wouldn't see what he was really doing. For instance, the deed of conveyance is actually chapter 47 of the Holy Quran, of the Moorish Science Temple. That's actually the deed that describes the metes and bounds of our inheritance, the domains of a Mexican. And according to the description, it goes from Ethiopia in Africa, across the Great Atlantis, over to North, South, and Central America, and it says including Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, which is actually the Caribbean. That is what's known as the domains of a Mexican. And this is why Marcus Garvey, who was the forerunner of Noble Drew Ali, he traveled extensively throughout the domains of a Mexican, preparing the people for what was about to come behind them. Noble Drew Ali come and actually put our inherited land into a trust. Now, I know this sounds crazy. All that much land, this man comes and puts into a trust. And August 1st, 1928, and let me just read the description. This is from chapter 47. All this is part of, this is exhibit number 2. Presently, right now, the trust is in Washington, D.C. Federal Court, District Court, as well as Washington, D.C. Superior Court. This is exhibit number 2. In this description, he says, their dominion and habitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across the Great Atlantis, even into the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake which caused the Atlantic Ocean. See, the domains of a Mexican is actually what was referred to in ancient times as Atlantis. When you look at Plato's description of Atlantis, he says that that Atlantis had rule over the island of Atlantis, the whole continent, talking about North, South, Central America, other islands, and also had domain over Africa as far as Egypt, and Europe as far as Tyrrhenia. That is actually the domains of a Mexican. So in other words, a Mexican and Atlantis is the same place. We are the direct descendants of the ancient Atlanteans. Noble Drew Ali put all the documents into religious documents. This is the deed of conveyance. This right here is trust exhibit also, and this is a certified copy from Sidney R. Olson, recorder of Cook County, Illinois, from the County Recorder of Deeds. And here it says here, exhibit number 1, an execution of trust. It says, coming from the state of Illinois, County of Cook, I, Sidney R. Olson, recorder of deeds and keeper of the records of said recorder of deeds, and in and said for said county in the state of aforesaid, do hereby certify that the following is a true and correct photographic copy of the record of a certain instrument filed in said office. And it goes on to say, on the first day of August, 1928, document number, in case any of y'all want to look it up, 101-05905, Book 521, page 79. By no mutuality setting this trust, and the president doing extensive research, it was seen that the Europeans at first wasn't aware of what he did. But after the Pan American Conference, they began to be aware of what was about to take place. And they set out to try to assassinate him. But it was already too late. Because by August 1st, 1928, the trust was already set up. But the assassination plan went on as planned, because I guess they couldn't withdraw the people who was about to do it, or whatever the case may have been. So Noble Ali was killed July 20th, 1929. 2 months later, the stock market crashes. Why? Because the whole foundation of the wealth of the country was taken out from underneath it and placed into a trust. This is why in 1933, they had to declare bankruptcy. And in 1933, the congressman stood up and said, "Gentlemen, we are witnessing the greatest Chapter 11 reorganization in the history of the world, that of the United States of America." And the reorganization plan is what was known as the New Deal. It was the New Deal that set up what is known as the administrative state. What is the administrative state? The administrative state is all these various agencies and pseudo or quasi-official government bodies and agencies like the IRS, FCC, all these licensing bureaus and agencies. That is what is known as the beast in the book of Revelations, because it controls every aspect of your life. You can neither buy nor sell unless you get these licenses, certificates, and so on and so forth from these various agencies. And see, as a result of what happened, as a result of what Noble Ali did in the stock market crash, that's what eventually led to what is known today as the patriarch movement. Because Noble Ali said in his prophecies, he said that one day all land is going to be returned back to the government. It's going to be taken back by the government. And so as the government was taking the land back, especially from the farmers, it was those farmers who eventually came to form what is known as the patriarch movement. Why? Because they realized that everything that they had taken from us via the states was in turn taken back from them. And what you have is, like, for instance, the Federal Reserve. These different agencies, what it means, what happened was that when the country declared bankruptcy, there was no more foundation to the wealth. So the money could not be backed up by anything, because there was nothing to back it up. So this is why the Federal Reserve had to issue debt instruments. And this is why when you look on the money today, it says this note is legal tender, not for the payment of debts, as it once said, but this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Actually, that is a debt instrument. Why is it a debt instrument? Because that money is loaned into circulation by the Federal Reserve. It's printed up, and then it's loaned into circulation. So every dollar that's out in circulation is showing what is owed back to the Federal Reserve. Understand? As a result of the New Deal and the reorganization, America as we know it no longer existed. C.A.N.I. Bey said in the book Clock of Destiny, Clock of Destiny, Volume 2, he says, here you go. He says, the Amazon Redskin white people's progress was guided by the cycle of the planet Jupiter and the planet Mars from 1789 to 1933, a period of 144 years. Mars passes through the 12 signs of the zodiac 72 times in the course of 144 years, and Jupiter passes through the 12 signs of the zodiac 12 times in the course of 144 years. Thus, from 1789 to 1933 spelled the rise and fall of Rome or the European society on a universal scale. FDR, Franklin Delano was aware of his being the last president of the 144-year progressive cycle of the Roman Universal Order. When he established the new order or New Deal idea and broke from the Roman order reckoned by a rule of 12 years, which is the measurement of man. What he's saying here is that FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, knew what was about to take place. Their society spanned from 1789 to 1933, exactly 144 years. Why do we say from 1789? Let me start getting into the history, and it'll start to make more and more sense because as a result of this trust and my subsequent study, deeper study of the Prophet Noble duality, this information has taken on even new dimensions as a result of that. And so what I'm going to do here is begin to go through some information. Now keep in mind that in 1933, the country, United States of America as we know it, no longer existed. Now you will notice that in the patriot movement, right, they talk about their sovereign state citizens, right? They want to return the states back to its sovereign capacity, as opposed to just being a federal enclave. Well, see, there's a slight flaw in the whole patriot movement because there's no such thing as the sovereign states anymore. The sovereign states went out in 1933, and what we see are entities functioning under the color of sovereign states. There's no such thing as sovereign states no more. Everything is owned by the federal, or everything is under the federal jurisdiction right now. And this happened as a result of the Buck Act. When you look at the United States Code, it's underneath the Buck Act. And talking about federal jurisdiction and federal territories, there's no such